Hello, hello, hello. Can you guys hear me? Looks like we've got Alexander Randall in the place. How are you doing, my friend? I'm doing quite well, I must say. I cannot complain. Who have we got here? See, we've got 5 viewers so far. This is just an impromptu stream. Not sure how long we're going to go for, but I haven't got anything better to do. So, yeah, you guys can keep me company and talk boxing or something. It's still early though. Let's get some more people in. I'm just going to watch this video of Eddie Hearn at a press conference. Okay, yeah. Gavin, to answer your question, what did Hearn say in the press conference? Is he showing any humility? Is he sticking by Benn? To be honest, mate, I'm not entirely sure. I haven't seen the entire press conference. I just saw like a 1 minute clip just now, and it was the end of it. Most of that clip was Kala talking. Yeah, I haven't really had a chance to see the press conference, so I can't answer that question. But what a situation! What a predicament! A palaver! A pickle, if you will. It's How do you guys, all three of you, how do you feel about the fight being obviously cancelled for this weekend? But Gavin, what I did hear in that clip was Eddie Hearn categorically say, at least in the part I heard, that the fight was postponed. So it looks as if they are going to look to reschedule the fight, and I have a feeling that that's probably going to evoke some mixed feelings and a bit of a mixed reception. Um, yeah, trying to actually reflect on how I feel about the fight being postponed rather than just outright cancelled, scrapped. Because, for people like, and I'm not going to call out anyone in particular because, to be honest, I can't remember any names, but for a fight that many people were kind of crapping on since it had been announced, there seems to be a lot of disappointment surrounding the fight actually being cancelled. And I know that obviously there's disappointment around more so the situation of Conor Benn and failing a test, and then this whole thing, oh, is it going to happen? Isn't it going to happen? Even though he's failed a test, kind of drags boxing through the mud. I understand there's disappointment and outrage around that, but the fight itself, it looked like a lot of people were starting to get geared up for the fight. So, yeah, just an observation though. But yeah, come people, let's get talking. What do you make of the situation? I haven't done a video since the video I did yesterday. I briefly went on GMan's channel as well, just to talk for like 5 or 10 minutes to him about what's going on. Because it really was up in the air since yesterday evening. It seemed like it really could go either way. But then as soon as I saw the headline that Eddie Hearn wasn't going to outsource the fight, if that's the right term, to a foreign governing body or board of control, then I knew, like, okay, this fight's not going to happen. And yeah, lo and behold, it has been postponed. What happens next? What happens next? I don't mean to sound so somber, by the way. I'm just, I'm actually just thinking. Just, yeah, I guess it's a little disappointing, but Alexander Randall. As time went on, I thought I might be able to get myself up for it, but just couldn't. Then this news, then with this news, the slight interest I had died completely. Yeah, I get that. Because at the end of the day, it was a circus. That's what I called it from the beginning. And look, I thought it'd be, somewhat of a spectacle, maybe. Both guys they're quite ferocious in the ring. That there's bound to be at least some parts of the fight that are entertaining. But for the most part, people expected Eubank to win. It was really just a matter of when and how. Yeah, so I fully understand when people don't have interest in it. It was that kind of freak show fight. And yeah, onwards and upwards we go. Maybe not onwards. Maybe not upwards, just forwards. Gavin, how do you think Matchroom will navigate the PR moving forward? Fighters being stigmatized as one thing, but can a promotion firm be tarnished image-wise? You know what? That's a good question. And look, I don't know what the future holds for Eddie Hearn and Matchroom and DAZN, but I suspect that they will be able to get back into a place of public favor. Purely if you look at, I guess you could say, the rise and fall and then rise of Queensberry and Frank Warren. Because, and look, it's one of those things, because at the end of the day, it's perception. It's what you look for in a promotional company, if that, or a promoter. But a promoter's job is to promote. And regardless of what you think of the person, i.e. Eddie Hearn or Frank Warren or whoever, if you tune in to watch their fighters fight on their shows and pay the pay-per-views and whatever, that's a good promoter, I guess, in a roundabout way, because they're doing their job. But if you want to consider, I don't know, the kind of moral perspective that people are going to hold of Matchroom, I don't think people are, or most people, most objective observers, they aren't stupid. They understand that Eddie Hearn loves two things. He loves a pound note, and then he loves boxing. And the pound note's always going to come first. But yeah, if you look back at Frank Warren's career, you don't even really have to look back that far. If you just look back a few years, Frank Warren didn't have a good reputation as a promoter, like working with him in a professional capacity, but also his shows. I've never been to a Frank Warren show, but the people who I do know who have, they've only ever complained about it. They've complained about some of the most awful stories. I mean, firstly, the main event at Frank Warren shows, sometimes they don't get underway until, I don't know, 11:30 at night, UK time. I'm pretty sure that was the case with the Derek Chisora, or the Tyson Fury Derek Chisora rematch, because I remember watching that fight live, and I knew a few people who went there, because that was the one that had Chris Eubank Jr. versus Billy Joe Saunders on the undercard. I remember switching my laptop off around freaking 1 o'clock in the morning, because the main event, Tyson Fury versus Derek Chisora, had only finished half an hour prior or something like that. So the running order was always dragged through Frank Warren shows. At that particular show, I think that was at the XL Arena in the Docklands in East London. Um, the guys who went there, who I know, there'll people like pissing in the hallways, the walkways, and stuff. Like Frank Warren shows seem to attract a bad crowd. And we've got GMan in the chat. Salute. It's good to have you here, my friend. I hope you can stick around. We're just going to talk. We're just going to shoot the shit, to be honest. Pound for pound. We're just talking about, obviously, the big news. The fight's postponed. Not cancelled, postponed, apparently. But anything else, this is more just entertainment, just to pass some time. Pudding Jim, I'll come back to you. GMan Ads. I've been on press row at Frank show, and my experience wasn't too bad, in all honesty. Okay, all right. So a bit of a positive review from GMan. But GMan, when was that? Was that recently? Yeah, let me know. But yeah, Frank Warren shows, and Frank Warren in general, like Frank Warren doesn't have a good reputation at all. This man has multiple nicknames, which he's earned over the years, and none of them are particularly nice nicknames. But even he now, you could say that is Frank Warren starting to get a bit more of a stranglehold on UK boxing, whereas Eddie Hearn is losing his grip. If you say that, I can't argue, to be fair, because if you just look at of late, like 2022, Frank Warren, of course, with the help of Tyson Fury, with the help of Dylan White, just packed out Wembley Stadium with 95,000, and Eddie Hearn just lost out the rights to Usyk versus Joshua 2. At least to the UK market, he lost out to Sky. And obviously, the Zone, I'm pretty sure they were showing the fight in every other territory, but no other territory on this planet was going to provide or basically generate as much money as the UK would, and he lost out to Sky. Then you look at the fighters that are leaving Eddie Hearn. This is all stuff that me and GMan touched on yesterday. So Eddie Hearn is not in a good place right now. Can he come back? I think so, but it's going to be a matter of when and how long does it take. So, yeah, hope that answers your question. All right, Pudding Jim 8, back to you. The Zone will be screwing. I could imagine the Zone having a private convo with Eddie saying, you do everything you can to save that show. Yeah. And to be honest, talking about how Eddie Hearn stated that he wouldn't outsource the fight with an external foreign governing body. It seems like, at least from an outsider looking in, it seems like not all the stops were pulled out to save this fight. Maybe they planned to, but then, I don't know, I doubt they had a crisis of conscience. Maybe they just thought, okay, if this fight goes ahead, we get a certain amount of money. But then also if it goes ahead, we take a certain amount of flack. And maybe that's going to be more difficult to come back from. I don't know. I'm not an insider, but trying to put myself in those shoes and I guess scope out what was the likely interactions. Yeah, we're going to be guessing all day, I reckon. GMan, I read that before. Tony Bowman, I feel sorry for Nigel because from now on the surname Benn will be linked with a cheat rather than the Dark Destroyer. Well, that's a good point you make because, and look, I have to be honest, around the time of Nigel Benn's fight with Gerald McClellan, I wasn't actually alive. But the legacy was that, of course, Gerald McClellan was permanently injured and badly injured after that fight. But did Nigel Benn test positive for some kind of performance-enhancing substance? So I think, as I say, I don't know how true that is because it's so long ago and I wasn't actually alive watching boxing. But and that doesn't get talked about that much, but it is still part of the legacy. And that's what you typically find, unfortunately. So many high-level boxers, there's usually some controversy attached to them, whether it's a failed drugs test, whether it's dodgy decisions. If you're Canelo Alvarez, you got both. You got skewed judges and a failed drugs test. Mayweather with the glove gate and what else? The catch weights and stuff like that. Like all these top level fighters have some kind of controversy. I don't think there are any saints in boxing. GMan, yeah, July just gone. Oh yeah, did you? Yeah, you interviewed Joyce, of course. Were you in press row for that one, or were you just around in the area, GMan? Been to Frank Warren in 2018 as a fan. Honestly, again, no complaints. Okay, fair enough. Well, maybe GMan, maybe Frank Warren sees you coming and he knows you got the bag, so he's pulling out the stops for you, GMan. Maybe that's the case. Pound for pound boxing. How do we all think the reschedule fight does with pay-per-view buys if it still goes down? That's a good question. Yeah, to the chat, what do you guys think about pound for pound boxing's question? I don't actually know, to be honest. I think this fight will always do decently well, just because of the name, the brand, Eubank, Benn, the intrigue of, can Conor Benn really do it? Can he even make Chris Eubank Jr. look bad? So, I don't know. I think it depends. If this fight is rebranded and they find a way to market how stringent the drug testing is going to be, then maybe. But how do you glamorize that? Maybe they could really, to use a Coogan Cassius quote, spice up the beef. Maybe they could market the spicy beef of, oh, we were supposed to fight last time, but you tried to cheat me. So, I don't know. Maybe that will be the selling point, and that could potentially do quite well. People love controversy. 50-50 fights are great. That's what the sport needs. But sometimes 50-50 fights aren't enough to capture the casual market. Whereas some cheap, trashy controversy rivalry, even if it's a bit of a moral grey area to sell this kind of thing, it's what catches the eyes of the casuals. So I think it could potentially do well. It just depends on how they package it. Ellis Hollyhead, do you think there's a chance that this can still be sorted for Saturday? Theoretically, I suppose so. I guess they could look at another boxing board and have the fight sanctioned by another governing body. Theoretically, they could, but I don't think they have any intention to, and therefore the fight's dead in the water for this weekend. So, yes, I think that's that for this fight, if I'm honest, at least for now. Jasmel Dinsa. Warren shows are good apart from the normal fight nights without ring girls and ring announcers crap. Yeah, come on, man. We need to have some ring girls. No ring girls, I'm not turning up. Jasmel, you went to Fury White and that was amazing. Okay, yeah, that's good. That looked like a good event. And the undercard wasn't bad. It wasn't pay-per-view, but it was entertaining, it was decent. But yeah, the point I was trying to make with Frank Warren, I'm not trying to say his shows are bad now. I'm trying to compare it. His shows now, like Frank Warren's got a lot of momentum, a lot of strength now. But if you go back a few years, like back in kind of 2014, that kind of time, at least from what I could see, Frank Warren shows were weak. Frank Warren didn't have that much pulling power. Frank Warren was making a loss, and he was making big losses as well. But recently, he's back in the driving seat, and Eddie Hearn is the one who's really slipping now. Pudding Jim 8, on the back of all this, Eubank, to his credit, has stayed very professional and not even slated Benn once. On the back of this, he's gained a lot of fans. Yeah, I've noticed that. If you look at Chris Eubank Jr. interviews since yesterday evening, there are people in the comments saying, you know what, respect to Eubank. He's earned a lot of fans. And I can understand that because you know what, Eubank, he's a Eubank, so he's a Marmite character. But there's one thing I've noticed with the British public, the British boxing public, but also the wider public, is they like an honourable fighter. So you can go into a fight being the absolute villain in the eyes of the British boxing public, but as long as you put up a gallant effort, even in defeat, they like that kind of thing. And I say that I'm probably talking to the British public right now, but in British culture, even whether you're a winner or a loser, that's what Eubank has done. Look, he talks a lot of trash and he loses his pen sometimes, but as a fighter, he does give his all. Excuse me. Excuse me, almost choked. He gives his all in fights and he works tremendously hard outside the gym. Um, has never failed a drug test, never really been in any controversy surrounding drug tests. I think the biggest controversy of Eubank's career was losing his pen against Golovkin, which he'll probably never be able to live down. But when he turns up to fight, he gives it his all. He trains hard. He's a good role model, at least in terms of work ethic. And yeah, I think people have realized that now. They've realized that, okay, this guy, he isn't the one responsible for this fight not going through. We used to tease him for the Golovkin fight going through, but you can't hold this one against him. Pound for pound boxing. G-Man's got the bag. G-Man's got the bag. G-Man says, yeah, it was at Joe Joyce's fight. One thing I will say for Warren, won't even let you bring a bottle of water into press row. Hearn the opposite, he gives you food and drink. Yeah, I imagine Frank Warren doesn't want to have to go above and beyond to pay the cleaners afterwards, so he doesn't allow any form of litter in the venue. He's trying to cut costs and minimize expenditure wherever he can. Goruga. Drug testing wasn't the same back in the 90s. Nigel Benn admitted he did a lot of coke and so did Mike Tyson. Yeah, exactly right. That was all of them were high on something a lot of the times. If you look back at some of Mike Tyson's opponents, I think Pinkland Thomas and Tyrell Biggs were both heroin addicts. I know they were into some hard stuff, and that kind of stuff would come up on a drugs test. Mike Tyson even admitted himself he was using the Wizinator, the fake penis, and he got away with that. Like that is like that is surreal. That's comedy stuff, using a fake penis to cheat a drugs test. But he got away with it because, as you say, drug testing wasn't the same. And look, drug testing is it's not what it's cracked up to be. Drug testing, there are so many ways to circumvent it, and even then, it's easy to buy people out. How much do you have to offer? How much money do you have to offer the people who come to test you? A few grand, 10 grand, 20 grand. Like 20 grand in the UK is like, I don't know, what job gets paid 20 grand? A junior teacher in a primary school or something, I don't know. But then, oh no, if you just let me get away with this, 20 grand right there, because I'm going to get 2 million, just pay off the drug testing agency. I'm not going to accuse anyone of doing that because I don't know, but you have to imagine it's not going to be that difficult with the amount of money that gets chucked around in these high profile fights. Obviously, it's not that easy because the fight on the weekend got cancelled. So I don't know. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. All we can do is keep plugging. Ellis Hollyheads. Just depends if Benn and Eubank still want it, really. Yeah, I suspect that Eubank wants it even more so now, because Eubank, he's someone who he likes to get stuck in. So does Benn, but Eubank really likes to make a song and dance of beating someone up and showboating and flexing on them, and that's normally. But now he's had to prepare for a fight. The fight gets cancelled because the other guy, Benn, is responsible for it being cancelled, and Yeah, he's going to want to put a hurting on someone. Pound for pound boxing. Where's the B sample? You're asking the wrong person, my friends. You're asking the wrong person. Where's the B sample? I don't know. Put it on a milk carton. Where's Conor Benn's B sample? Maybe it'll come up somewhere. Maybe someone has some information. Gorgoruga. Benn has worked with Dr. Usman, a testosterone replacement specialist. Fury has hired him too. Wonder when it'll come out. Yeah, I saw that. I wasn't too familiar with who this Dr. Usman character was, but I saw someone screenshot they took a screenshot of his Instagram before it had been taken down, because apparently he's just packed up shop, and yeah, nobody can find this guy. But look, as I say, I'm not going to say any names, but all these guys are on something. All these guys are on something. It's just the nature of it. I think it's just, and it's not just boxing; it's sport in general, and it's filthy. It's irritating. It's infuriating, because sport is like the ultimate expression of human potential. We all love a bit of competition. We all love a bit of entertainment. We all want to get stuck in. But what kind of message does this send? Not just in boxing, as I say, but all over the sporting world. That it's just rampant. It is rampant. And yeah, look, it is what it is. No, I don't think. Is it one of those things where it's guilty until proven innocent? Is that the kind of mindset that people are going to adopt from now on? Because I think there's a sizable contingent in the boxing fraternity who have that mindset where even if you've passed your tests, like your drug tests, no, you can still be circumventing it. There's like this, and to be fair, it's not completely unfounded, because boxing fans in particular have had their trust betrayed so many times. High level fighters, all time great fighters, and they have this kind of controversy. TMT, doctors, quote unquote, nutritionists, quote unquote. If boxing journalism was something, they would do some investigation on that stuff. Yeah, but look, you can only go so far in terms of investigation when this kind of money is being thrown around, because as soon as you start scratching below the surface of certain things, people, they lose money, they stop getting paid, and they stop getting paid handsome amounts, and they don't want you to do that. So it's a dangerous game. It is indeed. Pound for pound boxing, I totally forgot that Benn not initially signing up for WBC testing program. Yeah, I remember that vaguely. But then didn't he sign up afterwards, a few weeks later or something? But even then, yeah, that is suspicious, because you could say, oh, maybe he waited until he cycled off or something. I don't know. Some people were pointing out pictures of Conor Benn, 2016 compared to 2021. I don't think that's a fair assessment, because if you look at Conor Benn in 2016, wasn't he like 19, 20 years old? And then I know there's this statement that, oh, you're done growing by the time you're 21. I think that's very a big generalization. Like, I'm older than 21, and believe it or not, I've grown quite a bit recently, like in the past couple of years. And so Conor Benn, who's a pro athlete and has great nutrition, pound for pound, I was just talking about Ben's nutrition. He's enjoying the golden showers from his missus. He's drinking his missus' apple juice, and that's why he's coming up hot on these drug tests. But yeah, like, people are making comparisons about Ben's physique from 2016 when he turned pro to now. I don't think that's fair. Because when I look at Ben's physique, I don't see anything out of the ordinary. I don't see someone who's gone from being minuscule to being massive. He's just developed some shape. He's a bit more defined now. He's a bit more mature now. He's gone from being in his late teens, early 20s to being in his mid 20s, closer to 30, and developing his man strength. So, yeah. But that being said, that being said, because there were some people who were getting annoyed that I wasn't just coming out accusing Ben, saying he's a drug cheat, because I don't know. We haven't seen the B sample. He's supposedly passed all of his other tests. But I played devil's advocate by saying, okay, you can't pin anything concrete on Ben right now and say he's an out-and-out cheat. But at the same time, what he tested positive for, the clomiphene, it's very strange, because how prevalent is this? I wasn't sure. And also, clomiphene has supposedly this effect of enhancing testosterone. And as I mentioned in my immediate video, finding out about the news that Ben had failed the test, there's this movement, and I'm sure you guys have maybe come across it if you have an eye on sport, but there's a movement of people, certain progressive types, who they want to change how the way sport is run and who can participate in what sport and what division, blah, 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 who can participate with who. And they try to make this argument that there is no performance enhancing effect from testosterone. And that is a lie. That is a lie. If you look in any physiology textbook, any strength and conditioning textbook, it's textbook knowledge that testosterone, the male sex hormone that is most prevalent in males as opposed to women, it causes certain changes, brings about certain changes in the human body that can result in performance increases. It's that simple. So regardless of whether this was purely accidental, I'm talking about the Conor Benn situation, what he took, you can understand why it would be a performance enhancer. That's why it's on a prohibited list. So yeah, I just had to get that out there and reiterate. Ellis Hollyhead can't get over the devastation, was hoping the good news update, the fight being on this weekend, would be incredible. All the weight Eubank Jr. lost, he deserves a fight this weekend. Well, Ellis, who's to say, and what proof is there that Eubank Jr. actually lost any weight? We don't know, because, and I'm just putting the question out there, because I suspected when this fight was announced, and especially it was getting closer, and seeing the antics that Eubank was up to in restaurants and burgers and steaks and cakes and stuff, I was thinking, I'd be very surprised if this guy comes in at the weight he's supposed to. I was thinking, this guy, he's going to come in at 159 pounds on the weigh-in. Because if you think, how much is he getting paid for this fight? A couple million, maybe more. How much has he been paid in his career? If he's getting charged 100 grand per pound, okay, I'll pay 200 grand for the 200 grand for the extra pounds, coming at 159, which I'm more capable of doing. Maybe he was always going to lose some weight, but I remember Eubank Jr. when he went up to super middleweight, and he posted a picture. So it was on his social media. You don't know the full story, what time of day it was, what he'd done prior. I bear that in mind. But he weighed in at 166 pounds when he was fighting at super middleweight. Some of you might be able to even find the picture. He took a picture of his feet on the scales, 166 pounds. And if you just look at Eubank's body type, he doesn't look that heavy anyway. I don't think when he's weighing in for middleweight, 160, that he weighs... I'd be surprised if he even reaches 170, to be honest. Because I've seen Eubank Jr. in person quite a few times as well. And he's very slim. Look, he's ripped and he's really, really athletic, but he's quite slim. And he's like 5'11". So just my observation, though. All right. TMT, everyone must be furious about Ben. He might make them lose millions. Yeah, potentially. Potentially. It is going to be interesting to see the comeback. What kind of pressure will Ben be under? Because he was starting to get a bit of a following as well. You know, he's on the come up. He's a bit of a... likes to come across as if he's like the working class lad, everyday kind of guy. But this, I don't know, being labelled a drugs cheat, even though I'm not saying that I'm calling him a drugs cheat because I don't know enough, but it's not a good look. Pound for pound, my prediction will stay the same. Eubank Jr. KO rounds 9 or 10. Yeah, that's exactly the same as my prediction. I thought it would end round 9 or 10 with Ben being stopped in his feet, probably corner thrown in the towel. And I couldn't really see a way that Ben would win, to be honest. Joe Stunner Boxing. Good to have you here, my friend. Good to have you here. I must be honest, that was the first time I'd actually listened to you talk about boxing, Joe. So yesterday on GMan. So I'm kind of gutted I haven't checked out your channel sooner, but I'm definitely going to. And it's good to have you here in the chat. Thanks for joining. I must say I'm surprised that the fight's been cancelled, though I think it's the right decision. Yeah, it's. I think it's kind of bittersweet. I was suspecting that the fight would go ahead, but then, as I said earlier, when Conor Benn, when Eddie Hearn said that he wasn't going to bring in a foreign governing body, I was like, yeah, this fight's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But and look, it could have been somewhat of a spectacle, a little bit of entertainment for the weekend. But this is the right choice because you don't want to set an unwanted precedent in boxing. You don't want something like this to become normalized. So, yeah, in the grand scheme of things, it's for the best. Pound for pound, I reckon 85 to 90% are juicing in some way. Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. And it doesn't necessarily mean they're using anything illegal. They could just be using something that is not encouraged, but it's not illegal. Some kind of middle ground. Who knows? Who knows? And that's the thing. It's an ever-changing situation. Like if you look at Dylan White, he received a ban for taking an over-the-counter supplement that was made, put on the prohibited list by UCAN, I think. Was it like a fortnight before? So if Dylan White had taken that same supplement 3 weeks prior, he'd been doing nothing wrong. So yeah, it's an ever-changing situation. That's what I said in my video. Athletes have to be so careful about what they put into their systems, the water they drink, the food they eat, who prepares their food, where they buy their food from, because all it takes is something like this, and that's it. Fight night down the toilet, pay-per-view down the toilet, fight purse out the window. So, and it's quite curious that Conor Benn wasn't more vigilant, and that's where the questions come in. Was it something he was taking intentionally, knowingly? Who knows? TMT, at least we did not get another Oscar Valdez fight still going on. Oh yeah, Oscar Valdez with his green tea, his herbal tea. Joe Stunner Boxing, great channel. Yes. Joe, I can't wait. I'm subscribing straight away. Pound for pound. Yeah, you don't stop growing at 21. Some people do. Mike Tyson, for example, he stopped growing when he was 21, at least in terms of maturing. How much did Tyson weigh? Obviously, towards the end of his career, he was a lot heavier, but he was, I don't know, his physique was a bit different then. But you can't say that, hard and fast rule, all males of all genetic backgrounds and all phenotypes are going to have the same growth potential. It just doesn't work like that. TMT, B samples came from the same piss taken at the same moment than the A sample. Okay. I think what people were asking TMT was, where is the B sample? So yeah, it comes from they're essentially the same sample, but where are the results for the B sample or whatever? Okay. Gavin, Johnny Nelson on Talksport happily slagging off the fight. Would he have been quiet if Sky and Matchroom were still aligned? Yeah, I suppose so. They don't call him Company Nelson for no reason. And that's the thing, all these guys, all these boxing guys who former fighters, former world champions, and now they do commentary, they're all company men to some degree because their wages are being paid. It's just that simple. It's that simple. So it's always going to be this kind of bias and, playing down the situation. But then when the shoe's on the other foot, they're going to kick you with it. So boxing is just it is a perpetual slagging match, but it just depends on who's slagging off who and over what reason. But it always comes back around. Always. I can't think of a single personality in boxing who's never had a dose of their own medicine. I just don't remember any people. Quiet as a tomb. Yeah. Roma, he passed all of the UCAD tests, LMAO. When was he even tested for UCAD? Was it after Vada? Because he could have flushed it all out since. UCAD lists aren't as stringent as Vada, so yeah, he's passing it. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, if that's the case, because at the end of the day, you do have to ask questions like that. I was only presenting what was in the article, and the article said, according to UCAD and Vada, he's passed all their tests. But then, if you want to ask the question, how stringent are those tests? Be my guest. It's called critical thinking. But when it comes to critical thinking, it's not just about having all the evidence for or all the evidence against. You need to balance it out. You need to consider both sides of the equation, because that's how you come to a balanced conclusion. Gavin, Belle, quiet as a church mouse. Yeah. Hopefully now we don't hear from Belle, because whenever I see this guy, I just think of his interview with Coogan when he's saying, "You're never going to see me again, Coogs." And since then, we've seen him more than ever. And you know what? You know what was ironic? When Coogan, when Coogan and Tony Bellew did that interview, I was actually in the same venue, and the venue, it was at the O2, and the whole place was empty because the doors had just opened pretty much, and I got there early. And I was looking down at them. I was, oh, there's Coogan and Tony Bellew. I got home like the next morning. I watched the interview, and I was thinking, oh wow, Tony Bellew's really packed it in. And then he's like, psych, no, I'm here more than ever. You're going to see me every other day. First time ever, Bellew has nothing to say. Yeah, exactly. Hopefully he keeps it up. Rabisi Ramirez versus Jesse Magdaleno, October 2019. Yeah, like October's a decent month. It's a decent month for boxing. I'll keep an eye out for that one. Ramirez, I haven't seen too much of him. And to be honest, I haven't seen much of Magdaleno either. The last time I watched one of his fights was when he fought Donaire back in 2016. Or at least that's the one I remember. Ramirez, he lost his pro debut, or his second fight, didn't he? He lost it to that journeyman. But to be fair, that journeyman was actually pretty decent. And Ramirez, he's developed a more professional style, like since he's been a pro. Joe Stunner, thanks for the kind words out, Match Enjoy channel. Glad to hear it, man. I appreciate it as well. Gavin, Bellew always said once he retired, we'd never hear from him again. Yeah. If ever, the biggest lie in boxing, Pudding Jim. What will DAZN do about people that purchase the pay-per-view? Will DAZN provide a refund or offer them 3 months? Maybe they'll do both. Maybe just be like, okay, you know what? We'll give you your refund and a week or a fortnight's worth of DAZN. I don't know. But there has to be something. If they don't refund, that would be an outrage. But I suspect a lot of subscription services, they're actually not that difficult to get refunds, to be honest. I know you can get sometimes when it's a pay-per-view though, it can be a little bit tricky. Like I was at my friend's a couple of times this year, and I think it was on BT Sport mostly, with like the Tyson Fury Dylan White fight. The pay-per-view was terrible in terms of the connection. The quality was just terrible, and it kept cutting out. I remember for like the first hour and a half, there was just no signal at all. And when my friend's family finally got through to like BT Sport and the Virgin and whatnot, they only offered a partial refund of like £17 or something, which is BS. So I don't know, but DAZN have to do something. There has to be some kind of reimbursement. Pound for pound, do I just put out a video on PEDs and drug use? Okay, might have to check that out. I haven't, man, I hardly watch any Dwyer these days. But Richard Dwyer, the godfather of YouTube boxing, man. Yeah, Richard Dwyer, what a legend. What a legend. I have to check that out. Gorgoruga. Chris Van Heerden thinks Benn probably cheated in their fight because he punched harder than Spencer Ennis. Fight hype into. Oh yeah, I heard people talking about that. Yeah, maybe. Look, I wasn't in there taking punches from the three of them, so I can't compare. But yeah, you know, it's is it unlikely? No, I don't think so. No, because once again, what Ben tested positive for, it wouldn't surprise me. You know, testosterone can do wonderful things to the human body. I'll say that. Um, Not that I've ever taken any kind of exogenous hormone. I'll say that, but uh, hormone in general, fantastic thing. I highly recommend it, especially these days in the generation of soy boys. Mr. Relax, White was banned 2 years for Jacked 3D. Yeah, Jacked. Yeah, exactly. And that was an over-the-counter supplement. Um, but there's a guy in Hatman's Element Group who's been around for years, and I won't use his name because he might not want me to. But he's like a gym guy, and he used it, and he said that shit had him bloody. It was like, what did he say? He said it was like rocket fuel. And so him saying that, you can understand how something like Jack's, which is an over-counter supplement, would be moved to a banned list if it's like rocket fuel. Okay, right. Pound for pound boxing. I think Ben has been juicing for the last 3 or 4 fights. Oh, okay. Why is that? Like, genuine question. That's interesting you say that, but why is it? Is it because he's been scoring knockouts, or you see something in his physique, or what is it? What is it that gives you that idea? Tyson at his peak was in the 215 to 219 range. He was that rare example of small size was converted into an advantage due to style. Yeah, exactly. And you have to consider as well that Mike Tyson was one of those early developers. So if you look at Mike Tyson's autobiography, The Undisputed Truth, came out about 10 years ago, something like that. There are pictures of Mike Tyson, and there's one picture in particular where Mike Tyson is 13 years old, and he has the physique of a grown man. And that's not very surprising, because then if you look at Tyson in his first pro fight when he's 18 years old, even then he has the physique that certain adult men would die for. Imagine that. Imagine being in your 30s and looking at an 18-year-old thinking, I want to be like that. Like, this guy's got physique goals right here. That's the kind of genetic makeup that Tyson had. But yeah, Joe Stunner, as you say, like, small size can sometimes work in your favor. And I actually brought that up in my pre-fight video for Eubank Jr versus Benn, where a lot of people, like, the size is the fight is kind of hinging on how well, I guess you could say, Eubank Jr uses his size. But the thing is, if you know how to, being the smaller guy, you can use it to your advantage, because smaller athletes in general, not just boxing, but smaller athletes in general, they typically enjoy a greater amount of speed because they have less body mass, agility, balance, and stability because they're closer to the ground in terms of stature if they're shorter. Energy consumption, they can be a bit more endurant because they have a smaller body, they have smaller muscles, smaller heart and lungs, and that requires less oxygen, less energy. But at the same time, they lack the strength. They, I guess, they can't afford to take as many of your punches as you can of them, of theirs, rather. So yeah, it's one of those things. It's a double-edged sword. It depends how you use it. But yeah, exactly. Great example, Joe. Oh yeah, pound for pound. Thank you. I should really do that myself because it is my channel. But thank you. Yeah, guys, look, if you can hit the hit the subscribe button, because I've just noticed we've got 24 people. I think this is a record. But also hit the thumbs up, and yeah, I'm enjoying this. I'm having a good time. So thanks to you guys for tuning in. Mr. Relax, have you seen that Bigger, Faster, Stronger documentary? I've heard of it, and I think I've seen like some snippets, but is that a Netflix documentary? I think it is. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not really into Netflix shows. I don't know. Or Netflix sourced stuff. I don't know. I just not keen on it. But yeah, to be honest, I tend not to focus on the realm of performance enhancing drugs just because I find it to be just a bit morbid. And look, maybe that's me sounding naive and trying to bury my head in the sand, but I'm a big believer in putting energy into things you perceive as positive and things you're trying to manifest. I don't want to put all my energy into steroid use and performance enhancing drugs and stuff, because I know people who, they train in the gym and they're just obsessed. They're just obsessed with what steroids is this guy on? What does this steroid do? What does that steroid do? And in my head, I think, you know what? I have no interest in taking steroids. I never have, and I never will do. I never will have any interest. So why do I want to find out more? If it's something like this, where it's, Conor Benn testing positive, yeah, I'll look it up. I'll see, okay, what is it? Where can it be found? What are the effects of it? But that's more to make an informed decision about, do I believe Conor Benn is innocent, or is there some wrongdoing there? But other than that, like the channel, I'm sure you guys have heard of it, More Plates, More Dates. It's run by a Canadian guy called Derek. And he, I believe, is a steroid user. And he does like these breakdowns of the physiques of famous athletes and actors and public figures, and he tries to interpret what they may be on, like what their stack is, what their cycle is. And he just gets millions of views because people, and it's usually guys who don't even train. It's guys who don't even hit the gym. They're never in the weight room. They don't do any training, but they live vicariously through influencers and celebrities who have these jacked physiques, and they just become obsessed with steroids. And I will never, ever, ever endorse or condone steroid use. If you're an adult, so do whatever the hell you want, but I'll never encourage that, because it's just, in my head, it's the dumbest thing ever. It's the dumbest thing ever. But yeah, rant over. I get off my soapbox. Gorgaruga, at least Shields versus Marshalls next weekend if it isn't postponed again somehow. Yeah, maybe another Royal will kick the bucket in it. That one has to get postponed again. Yeah, speaking of that fight, what are you guys picking for that? I didn't do a video for the Shields versus Marshall fight, and it's probably good I didn't, because the fight got kicked down the road anyway. But I'm firmly picking Marshall. Maybe Shields can make her look a bit scrappy with the speed and stuff, but I see Marshall as the far superior fighter. Mr. Relax on 2008 probs on YouTube. Okay, so it's a bit older than I'm thinking, because you get a lot of like sports documentaries on YouTube, on Netflix. There is one, Icarus. I'm pretty sure it's called Icarus, and it's about Lance Armstrong and his doping scandal, but also the doping surrounding the Russian Olympic team from 2016. Yeah. And look, that kind of stuff, it can be insightful, but I see, just to get back to my previous point, Joe agrees with me. He says 100% agree with your rant on steroids. I'm sick to death of the damn things and those who use them. Exactly. Like, I don't find it interesting. Like Lance Armstrong, I'm not a massive cyclist head. I don't watch any cycling, but he broke however many records and was clearly a Superman. Okay, he's tested positive. I don't care anymore. Like, as soon as you've tested positive, and testers like talk about pissing hot. Lance Armstrong, he pissed an inferno. That's how much he was on. It just completely invalidates all those achievements. And then I don't want to focus on those achievements anymore. I don't want to focus on that person. And I certainly don't want to focus on what they were taking. I'm not interested. But yeah, there's just this fraternity of like these weak, like I'm trying to. I'm not sure how big you guys are into like the whole lifting community and stuff, but there's a term commonly used on the internet to describe people who don't train, and it's a DL. Do you even lift? DYEL. And these guys like that, guys who don't even train, they don't even train. They don't go to the gym. They don't push any weight. They're not accumulating any quality tonnage, but they're obsessed with steroids. It's just bizarre. But yeah, moving on. Joe Stunner, no, not only do I consider Marshall the superior fighter Shields, but I think she stops her. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I think that's really the smart money. Maybe Shields is tough. Maybe she's tough, but look, she's had vulnerable moments before. I remember her getting knocked down by Hannah Gabriels with an amazing right uppercut, I think it was, back in 2018. So Shields is open. She's there to be hit. I think she just has that kind of little bit of a Tasmanian devil kind of style. I haven't seen too much of her, but I'm not really that impressed. Whereas with Marshall, she has that, yeah, it's kind of loose and language style, but there's skill there and there's strength. Something you don't often see with female fighters. GMan, where's the piss bottle? It's over there. Eddie Hearn runs to hide it. Eddie Hearn's probably guzzling that B sample as we speak, trying to get rid of the evidence. Someone should test Eddie afterwards, see if he comes up with any clomiphene in his system. G-Man Boxing, just seen an ad on your stream, mate. Boom. Oh, G-Man's rumbled me. He's rumbled me. Yeah, guys, look. You guys here, I'm assuming you're all subscribed, but I have reached the point now where my channel will have subs. And look, I'm not going to take the piss with the subs. The ads, excuse me. I'm not going to take the piss with the ads. My channel is going places, and the income, if any, it helps me out a lot. You know, I don't want to divulge privacies and stuff like that, but it's something I've been working on, I'll say, because I'm in a position now where I've got a lot on my plate in terms of projects I'm working on, and all of them require funding. So I need to get a bit of a money spinner. I'll say that. But look, I appreciate having all you guys here. And yeah, G-Man said there are ads, so I appreciate your patience with the ads. And look, there's a little bit of a trick you can use with the ads, where maybe if you go to the ad settings, even if it's an unskippable ad, but I have opted to have skippable ads only. So, you know, don't turn up at my front door with pitchforks and torches. But that's enough of that. Joe Stunner, when your legacy is as a cheat, only the weakest minded members of society will admire you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it brings your whole career into question. How long were you on this or on that, and breaking records? Oh yeah, it looked great, but now we know in retrospect, hindsight's always 2020. Really puts things into perspective. It's it just don't do it. Just don't take steroids. Just try and achieve things the honest way. But then again, if you try and do that, how far behind are you going to be from the competition if they're all on the juice? So it really is a sad situation. Really is sad. Pound for pound boxing. Shields has a Tasmanian devil mouth, always running it. Yeah, that's true. Motor mouth comes up with some crazy claims. Didn't she want to fight Golovkin as well? That would be quite something, wouldn't it? That'd be something. AG. Okay, it's not addressed to me, but it's addressed to GMan, legend in the house. I heard he failed the test. Happened in September. Yeah, wasn't there something about I didn't see the video. I saw the headline about how Eddie Hearn said they've known about the failed test for weeks. What? Like, look, as I say, I didn't watch it. I don't know the ins and outs. I just saw the headline. So this is me being purely reactionary. I was just like, what is going on? This sounds like a real shit show. Peddy Hearn. Yeah. PED Hearn. Eddie Hearn is just digging a hole for himself, isn't he? The week from hell for Eddie Hearn. Put super chats on YouTube studio. I don't know if I can do that. I'm not an IT guy. Super chats. Am I even deserving of super chat? I'm not sure if I am. I'm not sure if I am. AG, heard he failed the WBC test. That's why he got dropped from the rankings. AG, I'm not sure about that. I may be wrong. I'm going off from memory, but I think he didn't enroll. Not that he failed a test, but he didn't enroll. So that's what I think that is with that situation. Mate, I have to ask, where is Tony Bellew? Maybe for once in Tony Bellew's life, he's actually gone home to his wife and kids. And if he has, I hope he stays there and we never see him in any kind of interview ever again. I sound like such a Tony Bellew hater. I actually respect Tony Bellew as a fighter a lot, but he does talk some rubbish. I remember, when was it, in the lead up to Joshua versus Kubrat Pulev back in 2017, Tony Bellew was just on one. Like, he was trying to really sell Pulev to the boxing public, and he was saying stuff like, "Oh, you know, Pulev is an absolute monster. He's been a monster since the amateurs. He's like 6'7", Bulgarian destroyer of worlds." It's like, since when is Kubrat Pulev taller than Joshua at 6'7"? He's like 6'4" at best. But you know what Bellew's like. Pudding Gym 8. Deontay is looking very slim in recent videos and pics for the Hellenius fight. I think he makes a statement against Hellenius next weekend. Yeah, I think so too. I definitely agree. A lot of people have kind of been like, "Oh, Deontay Wilder's so skinny, got pull Q legs." Well, for someone who's got pull Q legs, he can splatter any man on this planet with that right hand. So yeah, you're going to be laughing at his pull Q legs until he hits you flush on the jaw. Deontay Wilder, I like you, Pudding Jim. I expect him to make a big statement or against Hellenius. I think he's going to come out and really do some damage. I may be wrong. That's just what I expect. But yeah, I think he's closer to his natural weight. And the thing is, Deontay Wilder, he seems to be in a good spirits. You know, he obviously, after the second Tyson Fury fight, the first official loss to Fury, he went completely AWOL. He just disappeared for months. But now, you know, he's in the public eye a bit more, seems to be in a good place, seems to still have a love for boxing. And yeah, maybe we're going to see a big return from the Bronze Bomber. I certainly hope so, because Deontay Wilder, yeah, he's an idiot. He's an absolute buffoon, but he's exciting. He's a good fighter. Like, he is an athletic dynamo at bare minimum, you know, with that punching power, with that explosiveness. I really used to like Deontay Wilder back in like 2013, 2014, because he always came across as like really goofy, but it was like he wasn't trying to be anyone else. He was like this goofy, lanky knockout puncher from Alabama. Whereas now he tries to do like not the posing, but he tries to project and pretend he's something that he's not. Like, but you know, that's just getting into a different conversation. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Deontay Wilder come back. But I was joking around the other day. Could you imagine if Robert Helenius just lands the best right hand of his career on Deontay Wilder's chin, completely stiffens him up like a board, and then goes on to fight Usyk for the unified heavyweight title? Jeez, that would be like some Twilight Zone stuff. Shields versus Marshall amateur full fight is up. I had Shields winning, to be honest. Suspect scoring. Okay, I'll have to check that out. I don't think I've ever seen it, so I'll check it out. Yeah, I'm sure I'll get around to it. Does the fact the test happened in September explain why Eubank Sr. wanted the fight binned? Maybe. A lot of people are asking that question. Personally, I don't really think so. I think Senior didn't want the fight anyway. You know, he was talking about the weight, the rehydration clause, all that stuff. I think that was his true reasoning for not wanting the fight to happen, because he's been through that himself. You know, with the Michael Watson situation. I know that wasn't necessarily the weight cutting aspect, although it could have been, because cutting weight, Chris talks about it. You know, Chris Andre on his channel. It's a real thing, and that's the thing. The whole weight cutting, it's like it's just part of boxing culture, and it doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't, but it's just widely accepted. Okay, you're a boxer. You have to fight in this weight class. You have to cut weight. You have to put yourself at risk, and it's just kind of accepted. And I suspect, you know, just without flying off on a tangent, I suspect that Eubank Sr. didn't want the fight anyway because of the clauses and contracted terms about the weight of Junior. Okay. AG wanted Anthony Bellew missing since Conor Benn failed his test. Wanted. Tony Bellew wanted for talking rubbish. I'll never forget Bellew said, and I quote, after AJ stopped Klitschko, he said, no one has ever done that to Klitschko. Like, what the fuck? Yeah. No one has ever stopped Klitschko before. Yeah. Tony, who are you trying to fool? John Fury still hasn't found out why Tony Bellew was being so cheeky. Yeah. I had to stop myself, right? I was just about to do a John Fury impression. I was like, no, let me not embarrass myself. Yeah. John Fury. He's got some of the most notable quotes in all of boxing. How do the undercard fighters pay their bills following the cancellation? I don't know. And Gavin, that's a good point to raise, because undercard fighters, not just undercard fighters, but small hall shows, you know, these are people who are professional boxers, yes, but it's not their full-time profession. They're having to, especially on the small hall circuit, these are guys who they have 9 to 5s and they go train in the evenings or early mornings, and they're selling tickets, and if a fight gets scrapped, oh, that's it. You know, you've just used up your wages, paying your trainer sometimes, or you know, paying to get to and from the gym if it's not near your house and stuff like that. So I don't know. I don't know what kind of reimbursement scheme there is. I've seen Lyndon Arthur call out Conor Benn several times saying, look, you need to pay me something. Realistically, how much was Lyndon Arthur going to get paid for his fight on the undercard? Because I'm pretty sure he wasn't even going to be on the pay-per-view. He was going to be on the streamed part on, like, before the bell. So yeah, slip Lyndon Arthur $2,000 and then probably stay quiet. But yeah, in terms of the other people, the other fighters on the undercard, I don't know. I can't comment. But it's the harsh reality of boxing. Who talks more cobblers, Bellew, Gareth A. Davis? Well, you know what? I don't know. I'd say they're on par, to be honest. They're both on the podium for shit talking championship. I'll say that. But at least Gareth Davis was accurate about Conor Benn versus this fight, Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn happening. Because I was thinking, this guy's talking rubbish. He just wants an interview of IFL, and then it happened. At least the fight was announced, and the fight was 3 days away, 2 days away from being scrapped. So Gareth Davies, you've got to give him credit for that. But other than that, I can I avoid both of their interviews. If you said to me in 2014, 2015, who's my favorite fighter in and out of the ring, I'd say of the ring, Wilder. But today, hell no. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, it's hard to get Wilder in the ring these days. He last fought Fury in October. When did he fight before that? February 2020. Before that, November 2019. He doesn't fight very often. And when he does, he doesn't always fight the guys you want. But yeah, back in 2014, 2015, he was so goofy and silly, but he was like this. He had that farm boy strength, that hillbilly strength. What do they call it? Dummy strength. That's what they call it. Just knocking guys out. AG, I feel sorry for the fighters on the undercard. They should be some way of there should be some way of compensating them. Yeah. I can't think of a way where they could, but there should be. Because it's platforms like this, and yeah, we complain about the undercards because sometimes they're weak, especially when you're paying 20, 25 quid for a pay-per-view. But it's the platforms for these fighters coming through. And look, anyone who's trying to change their life through boxing has my respect, because it's not an easy way to do it. But for some people, it's the only way they can do it. There are guys who the best they can do in their career outside of boxing is working a chippy or something, or doing manual labor. But then they're like, you know what, I'm willing to put my health on the line to try and earn an honest living and get some pay in. And so you can't hate on that. So when these guys, when they lose out on something like this, there should be a way of compensating them. But it's a capitalist market, I suppose, at the end of the day. Boxing is very capitalist heavy, and I don't think that's a bad thing, because a market like boxing, it's like dangerous freedom, because you have the devices, if you're good enough, to change your life, but then you can lose that all. You know, it's one of those things. Like, business is dangerous. It's a gamble. You're not only gambling with your health, but you're gambling with your opportunities. They can be snatched away at any minute. We need a John Fury impression on a day like today. All right. Well, I've really talked myself into a corner with this one. Let me have a sip of water and get geared up for it, because I think I can do a decent one. Bit of trivia: Mrs. Outmatch, she can actually do a decent impression of John Fury saying like he's a natural heavyweight. She can say it quite well. Maybe I've got a recording of her saying it. Maybe I'll get her on the channel one day and she can amaze you guys. But yeah, all right. You know, give me a famous John Fury quote, and I'll have a go. Go on, I'll treat you guys. I'm not saying it's going to be good, but it makes some people laugh. Dukest Boy 96. Why are Eddie and Calla unhappy with the British Board of Boxing Control for stopping this fight? Surely Eddie, of all people, knew this was the right call deep down. Yeah, well, Eddie does know it's the right call deep down, but Eddie also loves money, and so it's like, what are you going to put first? It's that simple. Like, Eddie Hearn is a charismatic guy. He's a good promoter. You know, he can be an entertaining watch with his long form IFL TV videos, but at the end of the day, he's a promoter. He does these things to get money. And yeah, there's a love for the sport and a love for the fans, because the fans are the ones who give him that money, that they pay him. And he takes the fighters' purses or part of it. But it's always going to be one of those things, you know, when you have a money orientated person, and I'm not necessarily saying that there's anything wrong with being money orientated. That's your prerogative, but you can't expect someone who's like that to be the most morally upstanding person. So, but I'm not trying to perform any character assassination. That's just the nature of it. That's what I see. Mr. Relax, are boxers okay on prescribed steroids for asthma or eczema, flu, etc.? How's that work in testing? To be honest, I don't know. I think there's stuff that you have to declare. And that's where drug testing is not so easy to catch people out, because there are grey areas. Different drug testing agencies are going to have different criteria, what's prohibited, what's permitted. And that can go all the way down to what medication are you using. And even if you have absolutely honest intentions, you have no intention of cheating, but you need to take a certain medicine or steroid, it has to be declared. And look, it's very murky. I don't, and it's not something I go into just because I really can't be bothered, to be honest. As lazy as that sounds, it just opens up a tin of worms. Paul Davidson, does Chris Eubank get compensated for not fighting due to Conor Benn? I'm not sure. I'm sure there's got to be some kind of mention of that in the terms and conditions of the fight, the contracts, the legalese, because the fight can't go ahead, and it's no fault of Eubank Jr.'s. So surely there's some kind of compensation, but maybe Conor Benn has to hand his purse over. Maybe neither fighter receives their purse, but then the promoter of Conor Benn has to pay out Eubank Jr. I don't know. Maybe this kind of question is going to be asked of Eddie Hearn and Calisau and Eubank Jr. So we could find out in the next few days. But I don't know if people are that outraged that they're going to ask, is Eubank still getting paid, seeing as he's already a millionaire? I don't know. But it's a good question, nevertheless. Yeah, bear with me, guys. I'm just going to grab a drink. My throat's a little bit hoarse right now. All right. Sorry about the silence. I'm running out of water here. Joe, I wonder if one option would be for promoters to write clauses into contracts stipulating that if a fighter pops hot for PEDs, the contract is null and void and he gets nothing. Yeah, I think I'm just thinking about it on the spot, but that seems fair, because at the end of the day, you put your name on a contract to fight and you get paid to fight. So therefore, if you come up hot on a test and you piss hot, and that fight doesn't go ahead because of that failed drugs test, which is now your responsibility, you don't fight, you don't get paid. I think that's fair. But once again, how far can it extend when these drug testing agencies, they seem to only be able to do their job here and there, 50-50, touch and go. So yeah, but yeah, from a business point of view, but more so a moral point of view of trying to weed out drug cheats from the sport, it'd be a good place to start, certainly. Pudding Jim 8. John Fury has mentioned that Fury could be fighting Hrgovic or Ruiz Jr. in December. Yeah, look, it's better than Manuel Char. I'll say that. I mean, it doesn't take much to be a better fight than Manuel Char, but yeah, Hrgovic, Ruiz Jr. Personally, I'd rather see Ruiz Jr., I think, but then, you know, you're only as good as your last fight. And I remember watching Hrgovic's fight against Zhang, and it was just, to be honest, this has always been my assessment of Hrgovic. I've never been that impressed. I've always found him to be quite overrated. You know, I never really saw him as this danger man that everyone else did. Is he a good heavyweight, a solid heavyweight with some talent? Yeah. But I didn't see him as this guy who's going to be this massive problem for everyone. He's going to get some decent wins under his belt, I'm sure, but I don't really see him as being that much of a challenge to the big players at heavyweight. And I know he said he took Zhang quite lightly, but even before that, I just didn't really see what there was with Hrgovic. But then Ruiz Jr., he's not the most disciplined guy. So I don't know. But yeah, both of those fights, absolutely, without shadow of a doubt, they're better than Manuel Char. So that's good news in my opinion. Are those the fights we want first and foremost? No, but better than Manuel Char. That's the new saying. Get it printed on a t-shirt. Better than the Char fight. What is going through the minds of Hearn and the zone execs? I don't know if I'm going to use. I don't know if I should use the words because they're explicit. I'm sure it's several swear words and a lot of profanity going through the mind of Hearn and the zone execs because they were really banking on this fight. As crazy as that sounds, because it is a circus fight, but it sells somewhat, and therefore they needed this fight just as a little boost, just to keep them going, maybe into 2023 when they could arrange a bigger fight. You know, but it's just, yeah, Eddie Hearn and DAZN seems to be going from bad to worse. So right now they are effing and blinding. Effing and blinding, I'll say that. And if you don't know what effing and blinding means, Urban Dictionary it. Last year, Oscar Valdez was allowed to fight even though he was positive on fight week. Not much was made of it. Yeah, that's true. But then again, that was in States. So I don't think you can really compare it to what happens in the UK. Is it shady and like just morally bankrupt? Yes. But I can't really comment because I don't know what the rules and regulations are where that fight took place. Was that in Vegas? That fight? I can't remember. Joe Stunner. If a fighter fails a test, he could be and should be liable to cover the cost of the money lost to everyone connected to the card. Nothing focuses the moral compass like facing bankruptcy. Exactly. Everyone wants to be a good boy when their funds can be vacuumed away from them. So, yeah, that's a good point. And that's the thing. It's this kind of, these measures, in theory, they would weed out the drug cheats. They'd make people think twice. But how far can it extend when, okay, you know what? I can't risk being caught. So let me pull out all the stops. Let me pull out all the brown envelopes I can to make sure I don't get caught. It's a very complex situation, unfortunately. Mr. Relax, Frank Warren, be having a beer tonight. Just a beer. I think he's going to be getting out the whiskey tumblers tonight, getting out the finest. You have to imagine that Frank Warren is just on cloud 9 right now. You have to give Frank Warren some credit. He's a fighter. You know, his company was a sinking ship for so long, and now you can say that he's close to being the main man in Britain from a promoter standpoint, packing out Wembley Stadium, 95,000. Or Eddie Hearn, his circus show at the O2 doesn't even go ahead. Frank, what a fighter. I think boxing has such a double standard now. It's unreal, not like the old days, even though there was a lot of corrupt fighters wanting to fight the best, but not now. You know what? Boxing is what boxing is. When it's good, it's great. When it's bad, it's absolutely awful sometimes. But, you know, nothing's perfect. Unfortunately, boxing is one of those sports that just because of its origins, so since its inception, it's a shady sport. It's an underground sport. And from a mainstream, because boxing's a mainstream sport in a lot of countries, but it doesn't have the same polish to it, if that makes sense. It's not as regulated as certain other sports. And I'm not trying to say that other sports are perfect, because you get drug cheats in all sports, but boxing especially, it has that shady element to it. Such a shame, but that's what happens when you have sports that, like modern boxing, originated in the gutter, in the shady back streets of bare knuckle fighting, and that's where prize fighting comes from. And so, you know, a leopard can't change its spots, and a tiger can't change its stripes. All right, I'm probably going to draw this one to a close soon, people. So, any more questions or anything you want to talk about? Let's put it into the chat, or forever hold your peace. I say forever until the next, I don't know, week or two, till I do another stream. I can't believe we're still going at 29 views. 29. I know Hatman and GMan, they get bloody views in the 200s, but you know what? I'm a small fry in comparison. So 29, I'm happy with that. It's been fun. It's been fun. I like talking to you guys. So look, it's 7 o'clock now on the dot. Been going for an hour and a half. Anybody else got anything? If not, I'm going to call it time there. All right, Paul's come through. I would also like to say that Eubanks have always conducted themselves very professional and wouldn't be bullied by the main promoters. Good on them. Yeah, look, they're Marmite characters, as I say, but you can't deny what they've done. You know, if you look at Eubank Sr., many people will forget this. Eubank Sr. had a tough upbringing. He grew up in Peckham in southeast London, which Peckham up until fairly recently was still a rough area in London. And back when Eubank Sr. was growing up, oh boy. And then he moved up, grew up. Where did he move to? Was it the Bronx that Eubank Sr. grew up in? You know, he moved over to the States and grew up in the Bronx, I'm pretty sure. And the Bronx back then, geez, talk about hell on earth. And so Eubank Sr., and many people, nobody really disputes this, but he's a tough cookie in the ring and out of the ring. And he made enough money to change his family's life. So yeah, he's like Eubank Jr. grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth, but then he wanted to pursue boxing enough that he went away to Las Vegas. And amateur boxing in the States is not an easy circuit to crack. And I believe he was a Golden Gloves champion. That's no small feat. So, and yeah, they're wind-up merchants and they like to play the pantomime villain, but they are what they are. You know, you can't really take that much away from them. Yeah, Paul, you're a Peckham boy. SE15 in the house. Peckham has totally changed now. Yeah, I've seen pictures of Peckham. Yeah, I never saw Peckham in its heyday, if you want to call it that, when it was really rough. But Southeast London, I think, still got some catching up to do. To be honest, like most places in London, still got some places. Like even near me, it's not the nicest area, but it is what it is. Was Muhammad Ali put on some drugs when boxing? I don't know. Mr. Relax, I can't answer that because I don't know. Joe Stunner, good gig, mate. Keep the channel growing. Thank you, Joe. That means a lot. And we'll definitely have to link up, do a live together sometime if you're up for that. I'm sure we can sort that out and we can shoot the shit and talk boxing. It's good to have you here. I'm glad that you've stuck by the chat. It's been a good one tonight. Thanks for being here. Oh, Paul, you still in Peckham? You still live there? El Nino. Do you think Benn will struggle to get fights even back down at 147 after this debacle? Yeah, probably. He'll struggle unless he concedes terms, like a lot of terms. Like if he was to fight one of the other prospects coming up, like McKinson or Ennis or Ortiz, even though I think those fights are unlikely, he would have to be the B-side by far for them to be willing to go through a process of fighting him. And I think that would be the case anyway. Like imagine before all this, if Benn was going to fight Ortiz or Ennis, I think he'd be the B-side anyway. And that fight would have those fights would have to happen in the States, where if Conor Benn is a drug cheat through and through, it'd be harder to get away with that kind of stuff. So yeah. But yeah, I definitely think he's going to struggle now, just because of the reputation more than anything. It's not good look. Right, Joe Stunner. Okay, yeah, Joe, I'll talk to you soon then. We'll arrange something. But for the meantime, folks, fellas, I'm gonna leave it there. We've had a good live stream. I think this is probably the best live stream I've ever had. So many viewers. It's been fun. It's been enjoyable. And look, the fight's off this weekend, but at least we had an hour and a half of some decent banter and some chat today. So thank you to all you guys who tuned in. I hope you have a good Friday tomorrow and then go on to have a good weekend. I'll catch you very soon. And yeah, until next time, folks, have a good evening.